Okay guys, another exciting day in biology. Today we're going to talk about the carbon cycle and talk about what happens when you disrupt it. So we're going to look at negative and potentially positive consequences in the carbon cycle. So be ready for that. All right, as you notice in your foldable, you have this same picture on the top half of it with some blanks. So I want you to pause here and fill in those blanks. And then I'm going to talk about what they mean and how to fill out the bottom part. So again, pause here if you haven't already. Okay, so when I'm looking at things that add carbon to the atmosphere, so not just the Earth, the total amount of carbon is going to stay the same. We're just talking about, is it in the atmosphere or is it in an organism or the Earth? So what adds carbon to the atmosphere? You should add to the atmosphere on the left on that box. And there are a couple things we're going to look at. So burning fossil fuels adds carbon. Cellular respiration, so breathing out, adds carbon. Those are the two primary ways we add carbon or carbon dioxide, that's the form it's in, to the atmosphere. Okay, and then what removes carbon from the atmosphere? Primarily photosynthesis. Okay, so removing carbon by photosynthesis, and that happens with plants, algae, and cyanobacteria. Fun fact, most of the carbon is removed from the atmosphere by algae in the ocean. Okay, so looking at disruptions to the carbon cycle, so that's the third section in your foldable, and I'm going to show that with black marks on this paper. So things that can disrupt the carbon cycle would be adding too much carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. That's the form that carbon dioxide's in, so that can happen with burning fossil fuels. So what are forms of fossil fuels? Factories, an extra factory production, pollution from your cars. So adding extra carbon dioxide, we can't really control cellular respiration. You breathing out, I mean, that's a negligible effect. That doesn't affect the carbon cycle, and no one's going to try and tell you to breathe less. That's kind of ridiculous. On the other side of it, if we cut down too many trees or have deforestation happen, then that prevents the extra carbon dioxide from getting removed out of the atmosphere, which can lead to a buildup. So on either side of this equation, adding too much or not taking away enough, we can disrupt the carbon cycle. And when you disrupt the carbon cycle, the consequence of that, which I want you to write this consequence and you're important to remember, the consequence of disrupting the carbon cycle can be global warming. So global warming and disruptions to the carbon cycle can also lead to potential species extinction, environmental changes, and humans have an impact on the carbon cycle. So that's something else to write, and you're important to remember. Humans can change the carbon cycle and affect the carbon cycle in many different ways. Some positive, with recycling campaigns and things like that, planting trees. Some negative, like driving cross-country for the heck of it. Okay, so it just depends on what we're looking at here. And why it's bad if people cause negative disruptions to the carbon cycle is because once carbon is taken out of the ground, it's not easy to put it back in. So burning a fossil fuel, that's a non-renewable energy source. So it takes a long time to convert dead organisms into fossil fuels that can be used. So it takes a long time to replenish that source. Okay guys, so this slide is just to make sure you really got everything in each of the boxes, especially the disruptions and the important to remember. And it's written out for you to kind of help you with some of that. When you are totally done, I want you to raise your hand and have me come around and check your foldable and give you a grade on this.